Hi everyone and welcome back. This is Sky coming on to talk to you about the solar eclipse in Virgo happening on September 21st, 2025. This is a very special partial solar eclipse that we're having as it's happening right during the equinox. So this video will double as both a season change video, equinox video, as well as a solar eclipse video. So yes, I'm really excited to hone in on some of these transits happening. Though before we get started, everyone, I do want to inform you that free trials to my Patreon page will be going up until this solar eclipse ends. So until September 22nd, you can get free trials over to my Patreon page where you can get updates for all 12 of your signs every month, as well as weekly forecasts. So do check that out, linked in the description box below. And yes, let's talk about equinox solar eclipse in Virgo, not just Virgo, but the ANARETIC degree of Virgo. Okay, huge deal, obviously, with Saturn and Neptune also orbiting kind of around this ANARETIC degree of Pisces and first degree of Aries. We have Saturn now in 28, though it was just in 29 of Pisces. So essentially this equinox solar eclipse opposes the current Saturn retrograde in Pisces by 1 degree, which is a huge, huge deal. And actually the solar eclipse is right between 28 degrees Saturn in Pisces and 0 degree Neptune in Aries at 29 degrees Virgo. So what does this mean for us, you all? This means that our romance with endings and our focus on finality will begin to eclipse, essentially. So it's going to become very blatantly obvious here what is over and what we now have to move on with, what we have to move past, okay? And it's going to probably queue up a few months, right, between now and about March 2026, when Saturn and Neptune go back into Aries. It will queue up a few months of time where we have to face full-scale endings, or we have to really come to terms with that which has concluded in our life. Of course, being that we are moving in the northern hemisphere from summer to fall, that's also echoed in the season shift, right? As we are now moving into the time of year where there is more of a withering away, and where the natural buildup from Virgo through Scorpio and Sagittarius causes a natural seasonal die-off to start. This would also certainly be represented with the ANARETIC Saturn in Pisces, ANARETIC Virgo eclipse, and this interplay that we're having with retrograde season taking us back over these cusps that have been so activated. Uranus also retrograding back towards the ANARETIC degree of Taurus, though just now it's at 1 degree of Gemini. You know, as I'm kind of looking at this solar eclipse, some of the psychic images that are coming to mind are very harsh, actually. I'm definitely getting kind of like a red light or a stop sign. I'm feeling like something really stops here. Okay, ANARETIC Virgo solar eclipse. I feel that a way of doing things, a way of thinking about things, a way of conceptualizing systems, a way of managing time, right? 6th house, collective 6th house of Virgo. I feel that there essentially could be some kind of systemic failure here, or some kind of systemic stop or stopping point, turning point, whereby we have to come to terms with how things have changed. And this can also mean like some type of systemic overhaul becomes necessary past this point as well. And if you've been working throughout this 2025-year cycle to begin sort of consolidating things in better places, meaning maybe you've been able to declutter, or maybe you've been able to work out some of the kinks of your own routines, get healthier, obviously. This is going to be a very body-focused eclipse, with the collective 6th house being emphasized. You've kind of done the work by this point, is another feeling that this eclipse brings up. And here we have a place also where people have like the final time they ever did something that wasn't great for them. So the final time before quitting an addiction, the final time speaking to someone who was never appropriate for you in the first place. And then there's like a stop sign, right? Or there's like a red light or something that kind of like forces something to stop happening here. So this is a very karmic period of time, and it's kind of difficult to articulate, but ANARETIC Virgo energy feels like no more patience to me. It feels like we've been giving something room to do better for a long time. We've been trying a long time to meet something or someone halfway. We've been, really patient for a long time. Or we've even like allowed people to take advantage of us, thinking that maybe they would repay this, or maybe they didn't mean to take advantage of us and they would recognize it. And I see with this transit basically a never again kind of energy too. It's a very powerful time for different kinds of boundaries, and it's also a difficult time for people to see that they've totally misconstrued their own boundaries, or they've put up boundaries to things or people that were not the problem and opened up to things or people that are so the problem. You know what I mean? Here during this time, you definitely see someone like putting, relationships that really matter off on the back burner while desperately seeking like brand new relationships that have no meaning. There's sort of this like desperate consumption energy that really comes through with all of this anaretic energy, as one of the negatives of anaretic or 29-degree energy in the first place can be kind of like an insatiability or a craving and like a need for a hit or a need for some kind of solace or recompense. Okay, is that the word recompense? Recompensation. There's a need for us kind of like something to soothe or satiate us after a very long, difficult day. It can sometimes be the feeling of anaretic energy. And in Virgo, on the Virgo-Pisces axis with Saturn and Neptune here as well, I feel that we've been blocking off the right things and maybe opening up to the wrong things. So it's like you very much know that this like person or this list of people are very much never going to mean anything, but there's still like a lot of like, frantic talking or a lot of, kind of like sussing things out. But then it's like, okay, these people who like really mean something to me, we're just gonna, close the door on that. So like people don't like things once they get to know them either. People like that kind of mysterious exuded energy. You know what I mean? There's sort of this, with the Virgo Pisces axis so flared up right now, I do feel like we have this romance with mystery, or we have this filling in the gap in our own minds, which can be comforting and nice when we don't know someone well. But then as we get to know them, it's contradictory, and then, well, it's not good enough for us anymore. And it becomes like so easy, I think, during this particular eclipse season that we're in right now. It's so darn easy, you all, to see these like negative patterns that we're in. Like, okay, I keep keeping people that matter to me at arm's length while opening the door to meaningless relationships. Or I keep myself from buying foods that really matter at the grocery store while keeping, my credit card out to go through the fast food drive-through, okay? I keep trying to invest my money in some type of volatile industry rather than putting it into something safe like precious metals or bonds or something. You catch the drift of this. It's this kind of like risk aversion question. It's like, ooh, I want to take the risk on this person on this dating app, or I want to take the risk on some type of investment that might just like go like 500% return in this industry. Or there's this kind of like gambler's notion and this romanticization that in no time, like the gavel can really come down in Libra, right? Once we come past the anaretic part of Virgo. And then there's going to kind of like be a vacuum in Scorpio for a lot of people. So that's just something that's coming through in this reading right now too, you all, is like things may feel very romantic here. Some people have very easily started a new relationship here. Some people have very easily replaced very great people with very kind of like odd people and things that are just strange for this context. And it feels really good to some people right here, but it's not going to last. And Libra is going to really strike down. There's going to be this kind of like sword of Damocles energy that comes in during Libra, and people aren't going to see it coming, and it's just going to like kind of fall from the ceiling, and it's going to be like wiped out. Okay, so this could be like market crashes. This could be I don't know, maybe, the dating apps will fail or something, and people really aren't going to know what to do with their day anymore. This could be like, also questionable people preying on people on these apps. So I'm seeing something about apps, something about dating apps, something about people that we don't know well, something about also, investments that we don't know well, people we don't know well. being sort of like a sword of Damocles as we move into Libra. And then after these perhaps difficult things happen in Libra, there's going to be this very odd thing in Scorpio, which for like the majority of people is going to be kind of like a vacuum and a void. And then for like a very small percentage of people who've done well over this time is going to be like kismet. Okay, what do I mean? It's going to be like, I am now on the track to my destiny. I am, you know, in some degree of mastery with my craft, or some degree of complete and total understanding of my capacities and my potential paths forward, and that which I already have, that which I need. And this is going to be like, I don't know what the word is, but essentially there's going to be this thing that comes with these water trines in Scorpio season later in November, where we've got this, like a few people dotted like on the map. Like seriously, if you take like a world map, there's going to be like quite a few, but like in all the different areas, there are going to be like these like different people, dots of people who are like fully emperor of their own life. They know themselves. They know their own mind. They don't need other people. They don't need dating apps to feed them certain odd people out of some sort of weird collective vending machine. They don't need, you know, certain jobs anymore to like send them, you know, very insulting wages to their bank account every other week or whatever. They don't need these things anymore. They understand themselves. They understand their talents. They understand the economic nature of this time better than that. And then there's going to be like a huge mass of people who are in total chaos. Okay, it's going to get very chaotic, you all. And we already have quite a few little things kind of like boiling up to the surface that's been happening ever since August. And as we surpass this solar eclipse in Virgo, it's going to like really start to get even crazier. And I'm sensing, again, this minority of people who are very, very capable of being in this and not being affected by it, while pretty much everyone else is in kind of some degree of very difficult chaos. And how you can know, how you can understand, okay, I am in a chaotic energy versus I am in more of an energy of order, okay? Order versus chaos being a major key concept to think about during this time. Well, chaos here means that I need a hit of something. I need to take a gamble on something. I don't have something that I need right now. I need to go looking for it. I have some kind of impulse that I don't have control over. I have to put myself at risk doing something that feeds some type of ghost, or feeds some type of demonic energy even, or just some type of insatiable hunger or thirst inside of me that I cannot control doing. Okay, so that's like an addiction, or that it's not, addiction is not even the right word. This is very much more of a spiritual matter, but it can channel as addiction or as some type of like reckless behavior, or doing something that you know is not good for you, basically on repeat. It can also get very psychological in nature with this Virgo Pisces cusp, meaning that I can't stop thinking about that person. I don't know why that person didn't value me. I'm thinking about somebody a lot who's not in my life anymore. I'm not understanding why people treated me a certain way. There's just lightning striking out of the hotel window that I'm in right now. So that's a big thing for us. I don't know why people are treating me a certain way, and I keep thinking about them rather than moving forward from it, or rather than accepting that that was their free will decision to act that way. I am instead questioning them in the past, or I am looking back to what somebody did to me before and trying to understand it now, when I could just be essentially becoming like master or emperor over my own life. Another thing that I feel is very chaotic here is anything that we feel disappears over time. So thinking that we have privacy that we don't have, thinking that we have some kind of anonymity that we don't have, thinking essentially that we can control who knows certain things about us, or essentially overestimating our own private sphere. Now, there are a few things that I want to talk about with this, as one of the major things that this final part that we're about to go into of the snake year totally talks about, or wants to understand how we can be more safe in privacy, and how we can build up, make more secure, and make more viable our own private sphere. So this is something that will also come up with this Virgo ANARETIC solar eclipse. And there can be a recognition that I don't have the privacy that I thought I had. Easy to understand you've been spied on here. Okay. Interesting energy of like, what's the word? Like voyeurism. Careful for things like that here. I don't mean to make us paranoid. I don't mean to freak us out. You can find things in your house that are odd here. Let's not get paranoid. But it doesn't have to be in the immediate way that we think about it either. This can also be like understanding, okay, my financial transactions are not actually private, whatever I'm doing, in this age of technology is probably surveilled, which is kind of like a backhanded kind of voyeurism. So I feel that people's illusion of privacy or people's illusion of autonomy and absolute control over themselves may actually backfire on them here. And this is operating in very kind of poetic ways as well, with the ANARETIC or 28-degree Saturn in Pisces opposing the solar eclipse in Virgo. What do I mean by this? So I think that I can treat people however I want to treat them because I'm my own person, and if I don't want to hear from these people, or if I don't want to connect with these people anymore, I can just hit the block button, or I can just close the door to my house. And this is true. And you guys might remember that I was advising us this time last year, really keep that in mind. Sometimes you got to close the door to your house. Yes, there are some people you do have to block out of your life. There are some people you do have to block away. That said, I also feel that here some people can become too enmeshed in what their meaning of these types of actions are, and they can think, okay, my door's closed, I'm safe, or okay, I've hit the block button, I'm safe. And what can be kind of freaky here is that maybe it's true with this person, but that specific problem or that specific quantum context as to why the connection ever happened in the first place is not resolved by actions like blocking or disconnecting or disappearing. So this is just going to reform itself in another place of your life for you to deal with then. And then what you see is if we can't deal with things, or if we can't figure things out, or if we can't do problem solving, these problems are just going to create themselves over and over and over again. And we get this kind of false idea or false premise of protection. That's a big thing with this solar eclipse in Virgo. False premises of protection through certain technology-based buttons or actions. There's something to think about here. Can we actually solve the real problem at hand? Can we really get through the maze or solve the puzzle? Or are we going to keep closing the door on the same problem and watch it manifest over and over and over again in our lives while we have some type of estimation that we've figured something out when we haven't? So check this out, you all. Essentially dropping a ball and feeling very powerful that it bounced back up towards us. Perhaps sometimes thinking that the power of physics is something that we've put together, or, that pushing someone out of our life or pulling someone new into our life means something after this has been done 147 times already. So it's repetition of quantum problems in our lives, not because we're being punished by the universe or punished by God, but because there's a refusal to really solve the problem or to really have an honest dialogue about what's going on. And instead kind of a self-gratification process through the ego by thinking that perhaps our relationships with other people, or, whether people are or are not in our lives, has some type of greater quantum meaning, when maybe some of these energies are never leaving. They're just switching to new people in our lives. As our vibration is our vibration, our frequency is our frequency, and who we attract in means something to that more so than it actually means something about the other person. Because people have to be a match in order to come into each other's lives. And there's a very powerful ability with the solar eclipse in Virgo to have a frequency change. And it can be for the negative or for the positive. And I feel that whether it's for the negative or the positive depends totally on whether we're willing to really honestly look at what's been happening in our relationships and in basically what we're attracting into our life. If we're willing to look at that with an honest, willingness to resolve these negative patterns, the frequency will upregulate. However, if we're hands off, or if we just bluntly kind of create voids or vacuums, or even, watch out for this as well, dehumanizing someone else because we need to feel a certain way, or, abandoning someone, just leaving someone on red, even it's not great here, because there is kind of a derelict way that it makes the capacities of of one appear or just become, I would say. And check into that here as well, like what I don't have time to do, what I don't have time to face, people I can't get back to, jobs I can't get done, jobs I can't, even apply for, jobs that I, like not being able to get certain obligations done, not being able to get back with people, not being able to, find someone that you can connect with appropriately, just not being able to, a lack of capacity, a general kind of haplessness, or a general, it's sort of like more than general, more of like a blunted kind of life overtone, or a general imprecision, as this is going to be very, very worked on at a quantum frequency level by this ANARETIC solar eclipse in Virgo. Okay, so an opinion that is unprecise. Really watch out for things like ad hominem, diversions. Okay, this ANARETIC solar eclipse in Virgo is going to really give us a hard time if we can't keep on track, if we have some type of like argumentative style that, we feel like we're losing, so we impose consequences on the other person, or, we feel like because we're not being seen a certain way within this connection that the connection was contingent on us being seen a certain way, and if that's questioned, then there are consequences imposed, or an unwillingness to resolve problems is very hard for this solar eclipse in Virgo because it does not like piecemeal life situations. Let me repeat this for you all very clearly. This is perhaps, I think, one of the most important messages that I'm getting for this channeling, is that piecemeal life situations, meaning, okay, so contexts that we can't deal with, I've got too much on my plate, or, relationships that we can't, come to the table and figure things out with, health problems that we can't address, employment or career problems that we can't figure out. We can't let perfect be the enemy of the good. Life is never perfect, but you guys get what I mean. When things get so kind of into a state of upheaval, or into a blunted kind of nonsensical state, that everything is off, or the entire frequency or quantum reality is distorted. And again, the hallmark kind of symptoms of this is like, okay, the people that matter to me are at arm's length. I'm taking risks on people that mean nothing, or, all of my bodily health feels kind of off, or I'm just have this generalized fatigue, or, I have fights with the people that matter, and I try to be very like romantic or kind to people I don't even know. Anything that's skewed or squandered kind of in this imprecise, dislocated kind of way, piecemeal kind of way, will be corrected by this energy. So this is a time for surgeries, you all. That was one of the things that I had written down in my outline, which I have not really been referring much to in this video because it's really coming through in this video. This is a very surgical energy that we're in. And why do surgeries happen? It's because of this kind of frequency. Okay, so I would also consider this solar eclipse to be an accident indication that could lead to some kind of surgery, whether this is physical or more of a metaphorical kind of meaning. Things can build up to a point where it's so off and so misconstrued and so dislocated, as I was saying, that a surgery is required. For example, like a broken bone. Okay, a surgery is required because the natural seam of the body is so dislocated that it has to be corrected. In the same way, this could be happening in like a mental kind of emotional way with the Pisces Virgo axis, like emotions that are so off that this has to now be corrected with some type of major therapeutic regime or psychiatric focuses. Okay, very easy to see like rehabs here. The addiction has gotten so bad that now rehab is necessary. Things will not go on this way, is what I'm trying to say. This chaos energy that we've been in through this solar eclipse in Virgo will begin to be corrected in a certain kind of way. And this means that, okay, addiction has led to rehab, or terrible dislocation of the body has led to surgery, or, major mistreatment of one person has led to a breakup, or, total and complete submission to some type of, collectively nefarious system like dating apps has become so overwhelming that now the uninstall button has to be hit. Or, one has become so zombified or so high on the collective Kool-Aid of, these things being important or being meaningful in one's life, that essentially a very cold bucket of water can also be placed upside down over our heads here to kind of bring us back to our senses. So these are like wake-up calls also with this solar eclipse in Virgo. If there ever was kind of like a wake-up call kind of energy, I would see it here. Some people are going to, if they're lucky, have the universe kind of come in during this time and kind of like shake them a little bit and be like, are you seriously going to, entertain all of these meaningless, vapid connections while you throw away real, meaningful connections? Can't you turn around? Why would you turn your back on these things and face these things over here, these rotten things, when you have something pristine that was totally available to you? What the heck is going on? There can be kind of like a wake-up shaking. There can be kind of like a shaking energy here, actually, almost like an earthquake. Yeah, solar eclipse in Virgo, maybe an earthquake, and it's a sign that we're facing the wrong things. So, what is your disposition? Which way are you facing? Also, if you're very lucky, one of the positive elements of this eclipse is like, okay, the chaos is happening behind you and in front of you is tranquility, but you do have to choose to face that direction. We can also turn around and put tranquility at our back and face a bunch of like rot, chaos, and zombification. And the choice is ours as to which direction we face. And God or the universe will not force us to face any which direction. And why is it that people face chaos? Why is it that people are compelled to look, they got to like look at the car accident while they're driving by instead of at the more peaceful sunset? Why is it that people have such a curiosity about negativity? I've got to have my, my bout of promiscuity rather than feeling happy with like this person that I could have a commitment with so easily. I'm going to choose a bunch of like rotten, a collection of rotten people to go into promiscuity with, and turn away from someone that's like more pure and available. So people don't like availability here. They want to chase something that they feel like they don't have. They want to feel something from the mystery of the dating app profile or something like that. And we have to allow this to happen too. We can't regulate other people. We can't force people to value us or to value what is just very obviously a more positive option. Because there is free will on the earth plane, and that's another thing that the solar eclipse in Virgo is going to remind us, is that people get to choose love or hate. People get to choose connection or disconnection. People get to choose order or chaos. And most people will choose chaos here. Most people will choose rot. Most people will choose the mystery of what might be over there. Right? You guys know I've talked a lot about this on Patreon this year, all this year, as the snake year cycle 2025 is very much about that kind of abstract possible thing over there that I can't connect to yet, but I believe it's that direction, as compared to what truly is here. And a lot of people being compelled by this, you could call it false light. It's not false for everybody. This is not inherently a bad thing, because this really is how innovation happens. This is how people, really transform their lives, is by believing in something that's not yet here or not yet accomplished. But it can be very shadowy in this time too, where you also see people willing to throw away all of the good stuff that they have on some type of like abstract, sometimes not well thought out or not physically possible idea. Okay, so the idea is becoming too much what our lives are about and not like our actual lives becoming what our lives are about. So pretending, very easy to see that here. Very easy to also see people pretending to be in love with each other. And you can see that it was pretending the whole time by how they leave so easily. And then we've wasted time. So it's also very easy to see time wasted. It's very easy to feel not so great about that with this Virgo solar eclipse, because the one thing that the sign of Virgo despises more than anything else is wasted time, lost time, and imprecise election of people in our lives. Like, oh, I thought that person was the one. As it turns out, they just needed a nice little virtual round of promiscuity, and that was something that was more important to them than like the true connection that we had. And why would one apple ever matter when there's 1,000 apples on that tree over there, probably? It's just human nature, I guess. but there's going to be a lot of pain in these people who can't be satisfied with what they have, or can't be satisfied with the meaning behind the connections, or, careers, or, health practices that are good, that can't be satiated by these things. It's going to kind of cue up these, what I would call like hobbling or limping energies, where it's like, I'm saying no to everything. I'm not satisfied with all of these things in my life, so I'm just going to keep going and going and going. And now my ankles are wearing out, or, I'm feeling like very pale and dark circled here, and I'm still trusting that there's this thing over there, and I've turned away all of the things that meant anything before. And you see, here's where we're getting to this kind of like void energy that I'm feeling by Scorpio season this year, where there's going to be a lot of emptiness, which means that, narcissism is going to kind of really climb up over this small period of time that I'm talking about. And people are going to be very tested as to, like, with this emptiness or with this void energy, what they would let in, at that point in time when all of these good things are gone. So it's kind of like a downgrading that can happen here. Easy to have like a credit score downgrade, easy to have also like a downgrade in the caliber of people because of who you rejected before. So very easy also to see here, I mean, not to think too materialistically, but wow, the person that I really had a good chance with had, maybe not the best material outcome, but it was really good. And like now these people here, they're like very much struggling. And, I thought that person that I had the option with before was not great, but like now I have to accept something here that's like way worse than that was, because now I have no other option. So there's going to be this kind of like downgraded feeling. Easy to like also downgrade housing, downgrade spending, and this can be positive. It can be a good time to downsize in a positive way, or it can be a good time to turn off certain expenses and get better surplus, as we do have the management of income and expenses with the ANARETIC degree of Virgo, okay, and the changing or the transformation or the most powerful point of how one can manage their income and expenses. So like the budget will be something that's very good to look at during this time. If you ever needed to change your budget, now would be a really good time to do that. But this is not just money, you all. This is budgets all over the place. So the budget of people coming in and out of our life, okay, as I've mostly talked about in this reading today. The budget of finance coming in and out, the budget of certain nutrients, okay, through the diet, the diet, the budget, the schedule, all of these things. Like when we go in and out of our house, have you been too chaotic with like going in and out of your house? Like maybe you go places like 3 or 4 times a day and you're just in and out and in and out. And like, how can anyone ever have any energy? Or maybe the eating is very chaotic. It's just like, it's different every day, and maybe the biorhythm is fractured. Maybe the sleep schedule is just an absolute mess for most people. But there's going to be something that happens over this period of time with the solar eclipse in Virgo, where everyone begins to realize, I can't keep up this way. Again, there's that kind of like stop sign energy. There's that kind of red light that I feel to be the main psychic image that I've been getting with this time. And people are going to totally realize it. They're going to be like, I can't keep, staying up this late. I can't keep eating that kind of food. I can't keep spending my money this way. I can't keep on with these dating apps. I can't keep on just cycling and cycling through people like they're, food to be consumed or something. And I definitely think that during this general window of time, most people are going to be faced with some kind of like overtone ultimatum. When will it be enough? When will someone be selected that's like good enough for us or for you? When will the diet finally be made right? When will we tackle our sleep cycle? When? Virgo's going to start asking some questions here. This is one of the best things about the English language. For those of you who have spoken or studied other languages, like myself, you might understand this. One of the power points of the English language are these W question words. When, where, why. Most of the Romance languages have this, but in English it has a staccato to it, and it has a power. This is one of the reasons why this is a total different subject, but why I think the English-speaking governments have been so powerful is they're very good at kind of like interrogating and figuring out where things are, why things are happening, and through this sort of linguistic element of the culture. So like Virgo here is going to come through, and it's going to ask these questions, and especially when. When are we going to get healthy? When are we going to get our finances right? When are we going to actually move into self-actualization? When are we finally going to like have a relationship with someone where things actually work with, rather than getting stuck in these cultural vacuums, these cultural abyss? What's the plural of abyss? Like abysses? I don't know. This cultural abyss. When are we going to stop getting stuck in the cultural abyss of dating apps? Okay? When are we going to do the thing that matters? When are we going to finally get our house in order? When are we going to get our retirement in order? When are we going to get real, okay, and become? And in some cases, now will be the time to start on these paths in a very mature way, as we are right between this sort of grand collective seismic shift of Pisces and Aries, with Saturn and Neptune retrograding on that cusp. And this will be one of the more balanced times where we can really take our life, our greater life sequence, into understanding, now that we've experienced a little bit of Saturn and Neptune and Aries like we did over these last few summer months. And now, before they go back in March, we can kind of offset that with a little bit more wisdom and a little bit more maturity, a little bit more yin, feminine energy now. And we can kind of begin to merge these things together. So through responsibility, through precision, and through being, somewhat mature here instead, we can actually create great things. Relationships that are wonderful can be created here. And yes, life sequences that are wonderful can begin to coalesce, and we can get things right, but it's not just going to be the way it's been for the last decade. Okay, it's not going to be these types of cycles. It's not going to be these types of diets. It's not going to be these types of actions and belief systems and methods of cycling through life. It's going to be very different. And we're going to have to take from these older situations the valuable essence and experience. We're going to have to take that with us, and we are going to have to discard some of the things which are no longer viable, or are no longer viable is not the right word, because that makes it seem very kind of like only things that work right matter to me. The things that have died, or the things that have had their time, the things that are no longer going to function anymore, have to be understood. And because those things are a big sort of weight on people's shoulders here, as they're still carrying a lot of experience that doesn't matter, or still perhaps carrying memories or hopes that are attached to people that don't matter. All of that's going to have to kind of like burn off here. And finally, yes, the solar eclipse in Virgo on September 21st is going to cue up a major sort of change, yes, in collective frequency. I feel like the temperature is going to kind of change. When I say temperature, I mean kind of, I don't mean that like physically. I mean almost like reading the room, like the temperature of how things are. Like you know when you're in someone's house who doesn't like you, even if they say they do, the temperature, you can kind of like feel it. In the same way, like when you're walking into a job and clocking in, you're like, this is not where I'm meant to be. Like you can feel that almost in like the temperature. There's a change in temperature here, and just pay a lot of attention to anything like this during this general time and building up throughout the rest of this year, because it probably means that there needs to be a pivot. And yes, it is absolutely okay for those of you who have gone through some type of breakup here, or who have had some type of like very meaningful relationship fall away. It is absolutely okay to either just have some time to yourself, have more time in solitude, or to start connecting with people who are not going to be like this. Okay, and you should be able to feel in the temperature, essentially, when someone has a certain like joy of abandoning, or they have a certain non-committal thing dressed up with like a very kind of like romantic flair, and maybe perhaps hidden behind a mask of romance or a mask of camaraderie and connection when it never really was. All of those illusions are falling through, and we know who people are now, and we've dropped all of the romance. And yeah, so that's very kind of surgical in a way, isn't it? It's a very kind of like surgical way to look at things, but that is what will be required with this solar eclipse in Virgo. And if you need to give yourself some time, over this general period of time, to come to terms with who people ended up being, okay? what ended up being left of a certain situation, or also what you understand to be like environments or temperatures that you as a person thrive in, and how maybe you could path yourself or create a certain connecting point to those types of environments. That would probably be the best way to spend this time. As I said, you all, there are still currently free trials to my Patreon page. Those will run until September 22nd. Happy Equinox, happy season shift. I love fall in the Northern Hemisphere. I think it's one of my favorite seasons. I hope that you all are looking forward to it, and do hit the like button below, share this video, and give me a comment. Let me know if it resonated. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful eclipse, and stay safe out there. Much love. Bye.